Parenting is the hardest thing that you can do, and nobody gives you an exam. Nobody's going to take an exam at the point of discharge from the hospital. Like, are you even ready to become parents? Like, what are you going to do with this child back home? Are you qualified for it? And we have to give so many exams to become a doctor. But I think if I were to become a parent, it's going to be a harder experience than actually becoming a doctor.
Some of the experiences that led you towards being on the path that you are in today.
Any part of medicine which I love, it's truly pediatric science. I truly believe that children can survive anything because of that innate resilience that they have, because they believe in magic, because they have that ability to think that I'm going to be fine and there's fairy dust in my IV cannula and it's going to make me okay. And I think that that's the most beautiful part of pediatrics.
What were the factors in your environment which really got you to where you are today?
I was a preterm baby. I had a little bit.
I was made to listen to the Bhagavad both times. My boys were in my stomach, and I think it helped.
Health of a child actually begins in the preconception stage. It begins from that first conversation the couple has that, okay, I think we want to have kids. I would say that there are 4 befores. A patient should come at any of these 4 befores. Before conception, before the baby is born, before a condition arises, or before a condition solidifies. Your genes are like a piano, but your lifestyle is like that piano player. They control if it's going to be sound or is it going to be noise. Is it going to be a beautiful song or is it just going to be some random beats?
You know, these days a lot of parents, they are divided over this whole use of gadgets. How does one decide what is right and wrong?
As the child grows up, it's one thing to give them technology. It's a whole other thing to teach them how to use technology.
Nowadays, parents are almost bordering on helicopter parenting. How does a parent balance this while trying to be a very good parent?
This whole aspect of
how to stand up for yourself when you're being bullied and how not to be a bully.
Firstly, it starts with
this happy life, you know, of a family, and suddenly there's a financial crash or the parents are not getting along and they decide to part ways. How would your practice then come in supporting the child in the family?
There's been an entire research done on this very topic. It's called
the success of failing. It's good to fail.
The burden of that dream on a child, and you're trying to micromanage them and trying to get them to their best potential, which you think is their best potential. And all of a sudden, obviously one day you're going to get really burnt out, and then that's that. And then this child is left to their own devices.
Welcome to Kin and Kindness. We are back again, both Shubhani, my co-host, and I, to have a very, very meaningful conversation today with all of you. You know, at Kin and Kindness, we hold such meaningful conversations about life, about career, about attributes that one has, about things that one goes through, about various milestones. And each time we'll end up coming to one real truth, which is that whatever you see today that people are, is because of that one value that they uphold the most, which is kindness. So with this, let's get started with today's episode.
You know, Punnya, today the conversation really holds close to my heart and also culture. It was something which was taught to us in most Indian households. We understood that health was not when a child is born, but actually when there is a seed in the womb. I still remember my own aunts were made to listen to beautiful music, soothing chants, so that their whole aura was full of love and kindness. Somewhere down the line, we've forgotten that. And it's so exciting to have someone with us today who has made it relevant. She's gotten that whole ethos, pulled it from the philosophy into the world of science so that it's so much more palatable to us. So I'm so excited for you to introduce
I know, I'm
you.
so grateful to who we have in the house today. We've got Dr. Michelle Shah, who's this wonderful lifestyle pediatric medicine specialist. She is a super genius with all her knowledge, all her magic, all the things that she does with the way she handles her clients. And today she's sitting on our couch sharing with the audience what really is the science behind what you see on the outside. Everything looks good, or sometimes people struggle with what's going on in your body with behavioral issues, etc. She is going to demystify all of that for us today. So I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Michelle Shah today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm very, very excited to know what your podcast stands for and how we can take it forward.
That's amazing, Michelle. Michelle, before all the titles and the accolades, I would love to know a little more about you as a child yourself. And because obviously we carry our own environment as per what you're going to say. So it would be lovely to have a bit of a conversation about that. And what were the factors in your environment which really got you to where you are today?
I've never really thought about it like that. And I'm glad that you made me think about my life in this manner, because I think we truly are an outcome of the experiences that we've had. I'm the eldest out of 3 kids, which I think is a very, very big part of who I am, being the eldest sibling. I was a preterm baby. I had a little bit of NICU stay. So I know I've heard stories from my parents how they used to wait outside of the NICU. Even when I was very young, they used to tell me that we would just wait outside just to hear the doctor say, no, she's good, don't worry. And he would leave in a minute, and my dad would be up at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. just waiting at the door listening to this. And there was a point when I could have needed a transfusion. So my dad he had gone and he donated blood. My dad was pretty young at that time, as was my mom.
Yes.
And my mom had a really, really hard pregnancy where she was on bed rest for all of it. So I've heard a lot of stories around me actually coming into the world and how hard it was for them. And of course, my parents have done everything far beyond their means, far beyond their own capabilities to give me and my 2 siblings the best possible life. And I think that's what brought me here today. That's really who I was as a child, that it was taught to us that we are giving you a lot and you're very, very, very lucky to have all of it. And never forget that aspect, that what you have is something that you need to earn, but you also need to really uphold and make the most out of it. So that truly stays with me even as I grow up.
That's fabulous.
So Michelle, we understand from what you just said that the seed to what you're doing today was sown many, many years ago because of the way you were born and the way your parents handled the entire situation. I want to understand, through the growing up years, maybe after having graduated and done what you did, what was or were some of the experiences that led you towards being on the path that you are in today?
When I went into medicine, I thought that I would practice as a conventional doctor. I really never in my wildest dreams would have thought that it would bring me here to where I am, practicing in a completely niche field, in an unknown field, and building it up from scratch. But somewhere along the way, I found the field of pediatrics, and I said that, okay, if there's any part of medicine which I love, it's truly pediatrics. I love kids. I love working with kids. And a lot of people have to say that, I can't see a sick child. But for me, it was never that. For me, it was the resilience of a child is unmatched. I truly believe that children can survive anything because of that innate resilience that they have, because they believe in magic, because they have that ability to think that I'm going to be fine and there's fairy dust in my IV cannula and it's going to make me okay. And I think that that's the most beautiful part of pediatrics. So that's what I did my residency in. Along the way, I heard about the field of lifestyle medicine. I went to Boston Children's Hospital for a clinical elective. At that time, I was thinking of moving to the US, and I went there for a month, and it was wonderful because they do multidisciplinary clinics there. So one patient gets seen by various doctors, and I thought that, this is a wonderful way of approaching healthcare because I hadn't seen it so far in India.
Right.
That's where that initial thought of delivering care as a 360-degree approach came from. Then I went on to find the field of lifestyle medicine. And like I was telling you guys, I was lucky in a way that it was COVID time and I could do that entire exam online. And that's how I got my lifestyle medicine certification. And then when I started thinking more and more about it, I realized that as a doctor, we can only see a patient in that one point in time. I can meet them just for that snapshot. One patient at one point in one city. And if I truly want to change how children's healthcare is delivered, I have to have that macroscopic lens of being able to take a zoom out approach and seeing the entire picture. And then that's why I went on to do My Masters of Public Health.
When you're talking about that in pediatrics, seeing sick children doesn't affect you, and yet you've just given us this background about your own journey. Do you think that there is some kind of a correlation there? That you were comfortable being in the space of medicine? Are others in your family also in medicine, or is it only you?
So in my immediate family, nobody is. My younger sister is a vet now. She lives in the UK and is a practicing vet there. But nobody in my immediate family was. But my mom has many cousins who are all doctors. So I have been fairly in that world. I have heard a little bit about it, but not as much as, of course, if my own parents were doctors.
Right.
I think the field of medicine chooses you in a way. I don't think I chose it. I think if you were to ask me at the age of like 15 when I was making career decisions, I wanted to do literature. I wanted to be an event planner. I wanted to be a chef. Like I wanted to do all of these things.
Yeah.
But I think the field of medicine chose me in a lot of ways because I always loved biology. I was very, very interested in the human body. I was very fascinated by how the body works. But actually getting a chance to do it, I think that was part of a bigger plan which I wasn't in
she's
control
so
of.
right that the field of medicine chose her because I'm a college counselor and I see it so often. Every year I've got at least 7 to 8 kids who was dead set on doing medicine, and just that finishing line, they've done their UCAT or NEET depending upon whether they want to go to the UK or in India, and just in the end they'll flip and they'll like, we don't want to do medicine. So it's not meant for everybody. You've really got to have that resolute approach, and the fact that the field of medicine also needs to choose you to be able to see whether you have it in you to be able to compassionately guide so many people or not. So
completely, and it's a relentless one at that. It's unforgiving, it's tiring, it's long. I mean, my friends are all well settled in their fields and I was just graduating at that time. So it's a very, very daunting process to be a part of.
And then from literature to science.
Yeah.
And medicine.
And medicine. Exactly. Yeah. So I think I have to give complete credit to my parents because they really gave me that confidence that no, you just have to stay on this field and you can do it, and don't look elsewhere. Just look at what you want to do. It doesn't matter. We're here for you. So it also comes a lot from them, that strength.
Your parents are big supporters, huh?
Yeah.
They really, I mean, one must meet them to, understand how beautifully they've supported you. What made you go into this space of pediatric lifestyle?
So when I started doing my residency, I always felt that pediatrics is a field which is actually the most wonderful one, if I were to say so myself, because a child is almost like clay. You can truly mold them into who you want them to be in those early years. There is, of course, a factor of genetics and nature, but then there is an entire factor of nurture, and we can't overlook that. And like I was telling you, I've always been interested in the field of lifestyle medicine, understanding how the body works, all of it. So it just seemed like a very natural companion that how can we afford to look at a child in isolation for the disease that they bring to us? And of course, we need to treat that.
Yeah.
But can we not also look at them as a complete amalgamation of their environment, of their habits, of the people around them, to support them and get the most optimum health trajectory for them? Because this is a child who has to grow up. They have to grow up and live an entire life after that. So how do we create that best possible foundation for them?
When I was pregnant, my father, both my parents told me to listen to the Bhagavad. I want to go even one step before the seed in the womb. Can we discuss a little about that? Because I was made to listen to the Bhagavad both times my boys were in my stomach. And I think it helped. There's some culture which I can't speak to them about, but for those 8 days or 9 days when I had to sit for like a good 5-6 hours and listen and resonate with what the stories were being told, and I think maybe it was my own emotions listening to those stories which must have helped. I'm talking from a very philosophical mental health point of view. Can you help us and the audience understand when you say that health begins even before the delivery. It begins during conception, or the whole, during the pregnancy. Can we know a little more about that?
Let's take an example. Think of your child to be this building. You want them to be the most beautiful house and most beautiful building in your neighborhood. It needs to be stunning. You've gotten the best architects. You're going to invest in the exterior, the interior, all of it. But can this building really survive if the foundation was on a swamp or on some, on like sinking soil? It wouldn't, right? For that building to actually show all of its beauty and to sustain its beauty over many, many years, the foundation needs to support it. And that's why I say that health of a child actually begins in the preconception stage. It begins from that first conversation the couple has that, okay, I think we want to have kids. It starts there because it takes between 3 to 6 months for a couple to completely optimize their lifestyle. And like you said, that there is definitely an entire cultural philosophy behind this, which we've known in the Indian culture, but now science backs it. It's a field called the field of epigenetics, which essentially says that your genes are like a piano, but your lifestyle is like that piano player. They control if it's going to be sound or is it going to be noise. Is it going to be a beautiful song or is it just going to be some random beats? That's the influence that the lifestyle has on how that piano is played, the piano player's expression of how that piano is played. Similarly, lifestyle influences genetic expression. The genes don't change. Those keys of the piano don't change. But how they're expressed changes. And it begins with the couple. It's very important that both for the mother and the father equally, those 3 to 6 months before conception are done as intentionally as possible to optimize their lifestyle so that they can pass on the best possible health for their baby. They make that foundation really strong.
Right.
So basically a client should come to you 3 to 6 months before conception, so that's when you start guiding them what needs to be prepared.
Correct. So I would say that there are 4 befores. A patient should come at any of these 4 befores. Before conception, before the baby is born, before a condition arises, or before a condition solidifies. At any of these 4 befores.
Wow.
And any of these 4 befores give us a chance to make certain changes, because it might seem daunting for a person who's listening to this being like, oh my god, I already have a child, what am I supposed to do now?
Yes.
It's not all lost. There is always something better than that we can do. If a child has a certain condition, like say for example, a child has Down syndrome, we can do a lot in their environment to best support their health trajectory. Why should we say that, no, this is what this child's life is going to be? It's not. If a parent is willing to put in the work, then there is a lot that can be done. It's on the parent.
So, Doc, because lifestyle pediatric medicine is a field that gradually people are getting to know, and thanks to this podcast, hopefully a lot of people should get to know more. I want you to break it down further for our audience. Maybe pick up 2 or 3 cases without naming the child and the family, but just for our audience to understand what it really is and how the science works, and your guidance has been able to turn around things,
Correct.
like what condition did they come with, what was the input that came in from your side, what is the work that the family and the child had to do with your support, and how the situation was able to turn around.
Absolutely. So how I explain pediatric lifestyle medicine is that it's a bridge between the science of pediatrics and everyday habits. And we cover everything from preconception to the first 1,000 days, which includes pregnancy till the age of 2, and then everything beyond that till the child is an adolescent. If I were to take examples, let's think of the 3 most basic ones at each of these time points. So maybe in the preconception stage, it could be something as simple as PCOS, or as common as PCOS rather.
Right.
If a woman has PCOS, it means that her blood sugar and her insulin is kind of all over the place. It's not following the right pattern because she has insulin resistance. In that case, it would be a lot about optimizing that aspect of her environment. Now, it definitely includes her nutrition, but insulin is also connected to sleep. It's connected to movement, and most importantly, it's connected to stress and mental health. It's connected to environmental toxins. Is she eating out of plastic every day? What are the things in her kitchen? What is she applying on her skin? All of that is something which we support when we think about preconception. Then as we move into the space of pregnancy, early childhood, that fourth trimester, which is the first 3 months after birth, is a rocky road for all parents, because at that time the question is, what are we even supposed to do? What is right by this child? And that's when you need someone to at least tell you that, no, this is correct. This is what you need to be doing. This is what's going to help the child's brain development. So please make it part of your routine. Just guiding them through that entire process with regards to the child's nutrition, the child's sleep, the child's brain development, the parent's confidence. And then as the child grows up, it comes a lot into how do we build this child's emotional intelligence? How do we give this child good gut health, good immunity? How do we make this child a confident child? All of this actually comes into the world of pediatric lifestyle medicine, because a child is at the very center of this ecological model almost. There's an entire circle around this child, which is their parents, the parents' workspace, the environments that the child grows up in, how much green space they have. Everything is a part of this child's life. So we have to look at that entire picture before delivering care for that child. Whether it's their immunity, whether it's their nutrition, whether it's their gut health, whether it's brain development, or whether it's the parent's own confidence in their ability to parent.
Right.
Yeah.
So picking up one question from the stage when the child is growing up, these days a lot of parents they are divided over this whole use of gadgets. A lot of parents feel that they're very rigid and very stubborn about not giving gadgets, because obviously they've got to cap the screen time. They feel it leads to ADHD, it leads to lack of concentration, distraction, less productivity. And then there are some parents who are slightly flexible and they feel that we don't want to make our kids robots. We don't want that whole robotic way of living. We want our child to enjoy. We want a child to do a little bit of everything as long as it's controlled.
Exploring.
So yeah, and sometimes obviously we're living in a tech digital world. There's also some serious advantages of technology, of using the screen. They're going to schools. A lot of learning is happening there in schools on screen. A lot of learning back home is happening on screens. How does one decide what is right and wrong in so much confusion going on today?
The first thing when we address anything related to screens is to understand what the age group of that child is. If it's a young child below the age of 5, any technology is not really going to be serving them. It's merely taking away something else to make space and time for that technology to get integrated in their routine. Is it taking away outdoor play? Is it taking away social connections? Is it taking away boredom and free play? What is technology taking away? As the child grows up, it's one thing to give them technology. It's a whole other thing to teach them how to use technology. Like you rightly said, kids are living in a world which is a technology heavy world, and with AI and all of that, children have to be literate on how to use this medium. Having said that, it's a parent's responsibility to first model it for them. So the first thing to start doing is co-viewing. Sit and watch with your kid what they are watching, because that creates space for a communication that, oh, did you see how he did that? Oh, look how he helped his friend. You're making it a more engaging dialogue rather than just them sitting and watching something else. The second thing to do, which I was telling you, is modeling it. Now, what happens oftentimes that I've heard from my patients is that I'm sitting and working on my laptop and my child is getting really insecure about this laptop. They try to close it, they hate it, they don't like their parents sitting at the laptop. But the biology behind this is that the child feels threatened by the presence of it. They don't understand that your work is happening on that laptop. They feel that it's taking away your time from them. So they almost want to fight that feeling. So the second thing that any parent should do is please don't use technology around your child in a way that it makes them feel threatened by it.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to help them create a healthy relationship with that piece, with that device. And then the third thing is age-appropriate content, which is the most important thing, especially for adolescents and preteens. That if your child you feel is acting really strange after, after a couple of months, you feel that there is a change in their behavior, they've stopped eating, they're very conscious about how they look, they're talking a certain way, there is something that needs to be flagged here. And most often it's something that they've seen that makes them feel a little less confident. It makes them feel that I need to look like this to derive my sense of confidence. And when you start using a screen or a person on the screen as your means of gaining confidence from, it's not going to serve you in the long run. It just creates that seed for external validation so early on in life. So at 3 stages, there are few ways to manage screens. It's very important that a child is actually taught it. It has to be like education, it's literacy.
You know, the other thing which I want to ask is, nowadays parents are almost bordering on helicopter parenting. And maybe, we were given a little more space to actually figure out our lives. Right now, with so much knowledge, like I really resonate with the whole, this thing, go out and play. But can we now? That's one. Second is, let them be bored. Let them be bored, I think, is fantastic. Give them crayons and give them a paper and let them do whatever they want to do, whether they want to make a paper plane out of it or draw a paper plane on it. So that is their skill set. My issue is, how would you, get these parents who are either too invested in their child's life that they've almost taken away that sense of agency from the child. Now the child only requires that, adoration and approval. That the minute they are told that, oh, you're not good in the big bad world, they crumble.
They can't take it,
And this is, and I feel that it is in the beginning part that, okay, fall down, get, pick yourself up, it's okay. If it's, so more than me, I would like you to explain, how do you balance, how does a parent balance this while trying to be a very good parent?
I think it's the most wonderful and pertinent question for today's podcast, because even in my practice, when I'm doing a session with students, just a catch-up session on what's happened, tracking the progress of activities, I can see the shadow of the parent in the room, and I can hear those whispers, ye pucho, ye karo, wo, so I understand where Shubhani is coming from, and the audience really needs an answer and a perspective rather from you on
how does that?
I couldn't agree more with you. This whole aspect of giving children positive encouragement or giving them positive feedback constantly for everything that they do is actually not the best thing that we can do for kids. For example, they've drawn this amazing picture and they've come and shown you at the age of 2. Your reply automatically would be, oh my God, this is so beautiful. A couple of months later, they've again drawn a very beautiful picture and come back to you. And maybe this time you're thinking about something else. So you just said, oh, that's nice. Now, what does this child feel? Oh my God, was this not that good? Should I have done something better?
Yeah.
It gives them more doubt on what their capabilities are. So as a parent, don't make your compliments or your positive feedback to a child about the outcome. Make it about the process. Oh, I see you used red color here. It looks beautiful. I see that you tried to color within the lines. Good job. You're making it about the process, about all the ideas that the child had, and then you put them on paper. This is just for art, but it can be applied to everything. I saw that you were really trying to play with your friends today. It's good that you tried to get everyone included. You're giving them a compliment on the process and not the outcome. And when we do that as parents, you're actually teaching children intrinsic motivation. For a child, they can't always be derived on extrinsic motivation, on external factors to keep them motivated. On hearing people say that, oh wow, this is so good that you did that. And in a world of social media, unfortunately, this is something that they're already being fed.
Yeah.
So how do you train this child's brain at a very young age to seek out intrinsic motivation? I am doing this because I want to do it. I am doing this, even if it's hard, I can stay confident because I know that I can complete this task. And it starts when they're 2 years old. It starts when they're 1 year old. It starts in our language with children. Because what's going to happen is a child who's extrinsically motivated is going to go out in the big bad world and is going to hear from someone that, oh, you didn't do this? Oh, this wasn't that good. And all of a sudden they're crushed. They have no way to come back from that loss, from that almost feedback that they received. And in the world of AI, we know that one of the most important skills that a child needs to have is problem solving, is creative thinking. And that can only happen when they're not defeated by others.
I think there is this whole culture which has to be now ingrained, is the success of failing. It's good to fail.
Couldn't agree more, yeah.
The more you fall and pick yourself up. The process, as you just said, the process of picking yourself up without anybody really, fine if you can't get into the college exactly for you. Don't get into the college. You didn't work hard enough. You weren't clued in enough to figure that out. That's okay.
Yeah.
You still have 3
Reflection,
more years.
introspection,
So do something.
getting feedback from.
Instead of always, and it begins exactly at 2. The child is not, there are everything. Oh, girega. Everything has to be childproof. Yes, please. I'm not saying there should not be childproofing done in the house. But I think it is important that there should be some element of experiencing disaster
And this
in
is
their environment.
I completely agree with you, because this begins in the preconception stage.
Yeah.
It begins in the preconception stage because a parent first has to understand their own patterns, their own limiting beliefs, almost their own childhood memories that they very unknowingly might project on their child.
Correct.
I once, in a consultation with a parent, the parent said that, I have 2 kids. The first kid is really outgoing, very friendly, wants to talk to everybody. But the second one is a little bit introverted. She doesn't like talking. And then I started probing a little bit more. And that's when the parent said that I was a very shy child and I didn't speak to anyone. And I'm like, this is where you have it wrong. Because you feel that for you, being an introvert was not an advantage, or it was a disadvantage. And thereby you want your younger child to now become an extrovert. But it's not true to who she is. What is true to her is to be by herself. Why not let that child express their own individuality of who they are? And like you were telling me, like you were mentioning about helicopter parents, a helicopter has a very small fuel tank. It goes up, covers a short distance, and it has to land. It has to come crashing down. Helicopter parents are burnt out parents. They will not be able to sustain this much amount of effort for the rest of that child's life.
Not possible.
And then what happens that this child who you've really, really micromanaged, you've left them all of a sudden. These are children who just go a little bit wild because now there's nobody who's
I just want to tell all the helicopter parents watching our podcast today, you should go back, rewind, and hear what Dr. Michelle said, because I think what you're saying makes total sense.
I'm sure that you guys have also seen this. I mean, you work with so many kids, and I'm sure that you've seen this pattern that a hovering parent.
He gets the kids, I get the mothers.
Yeah.
And I wish I can send all my clients to Shubhani, and I'm like, please fix them, behaviorally and, the way they think, and then I will be able to manifest the best results.
But it starts from their moms. Or it starts from their dads, because they didn't get that particular opportunity which they thought that they should have gotten, or that they wish they had gotten, or maybe it wasn't the right time, or for whatever reason it didn't work. Now they've put that entire dream and that burden of that dream on a child, and you're trying to micromanage them and trying to get them to their best potential, which you think is their best potential. And all of a sudden, obviously, one day you're going to get really burnt out, and then that's that. And then this child is left to their own device.
Can you please demystify or dismiss this whole belief of that these introverted children just have their own arc? As long as they are healthy, they are happy, they'll come around. They also know that they have to go out into the world and fight. But everybody wants it now. The kid has to do everything now.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, no, wait. Give them. Maybe someone blossoms at 16. Someone will blossom at 20.
Completely.
Someone will blossom at 30. Where is the rush, so to speak?
Completely. I mean, you guys gave such a beautiful introduction for me and all of that. But if you met me at the age of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 also actually, I was really not I was not the brightest, I was not the most confident. It was none of that. You wouldn't have ever thought that I would be here. I mean, my parents are still surprised that I do all of these things. But the question to ask is an introverted child a child who has low self-confidence?
Yeah.
If that's the case, then definitely we need to address it. We need to address why their confidence is lacking. But if an introverted child is a confident child, is a child who's very comfortable in their own friend groups, is a child who's otherwise a sociable child when they are comfortable
with that group
with their group, then it's a choice that child's personality has made for them. Maybe that child's potential of becoming an extrovert is going to come when they're 25, 30, maybe it'll never come. But if that child is happy, if they are confident, if they don't feel insecure about putting themselves out in any kind of a group setting, then I don't see why it's going to be wrong for that child. It is who they are, and we just have to accept
So
that.
true. I want to go back and piggyback on the statement that you made about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. I understand it's very important for the child to cultivate intrinsic motivation and sort of be self-reliant in the way they want to navigate their life, even if the extrinsic factors are not there. But at the end of the day, a child is a child, right? And has the tendency to get influenced
Yeah.
or be perturbed by the circumstances around. Let me pick up 2 or 3 typical examples of circumstances that I think can shake a child, and feel free to add more and share from your perspective. Could be this happy life, of a family, and suddenly there's a financial crash, or the parents are not getting along and they decide to part ways, or it's an injury that the child has, or somebody has around. These are 3 things that are coming to my mind right now. It's very possible for that child who is reasonably intrinsically motivated to get shaken up and lose his or her equilibrium, so as to speak.
Absolutely.
How would your practice then come in supporting the child in the family? And if there are any examples that you can think of, of these circumstances, or any other that the audience can benefit from and really understand that there is a way scientifically to solve these problems.
There's been an entire research done on this very topic. It's called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, the ACE studies, which basically goes on to say that kids who've had really adverse events in childhood are kids whose risk of developing chronic diseases increases later on in life. And they studied a bunch of kids, followed them up for many years, and that's how this conclusion was reached. Using the material from that study, what we understand, which is actually something positive for us to take back, is that when a negative experience can have so much influence, think how much a positive experience can influence a child. The 3 experiences that you laid out, which is separation, injuries, financial crisis, are very common experiences in the society that we live in. It could happen to anybody. However, is the child feeling secure when these things are happening? For example, if a parent is separating, if the mother and the father are separating, are they able to give security to that child in the way the child can understand it? If the child is 2, they might feel very confused that why is my mom not here? Why is my dad here? Why is my dad not here? Why is my mom here? So they'll be looking out for these figures. At that time, can the parent explain it to the child through a story? That there was this kid and actually his parents weren't getting along, which is okay. But they thought that it's better if we stay separately, but we all still love this child. Because that's how much this child's brain has the potential to absorb and learn from. Versus the same child at the age of 7. You can actually have a proper conversation with this child that, I think we're not getting along. It's better if we part ways, but we still love you and we're always here for you. No matter which one of us you need, it doesn't matter. We are here together for you at all points in time. It's actually a lot on how blanketed a child feels.
Right.
How much of a safety net can we create for them? It doesn't mean that the environment has to be perfect to create it. A financial crisis could happen at any point. But can you explain to that child that, look, things aren't that good, so we have to earn what we want? It's actually a good thing for it to happen. It's actually a good thing to teach that child that you don't get everything that you want, and it's okay, you just have to keep working hard for it, because you're teaching them resilience at such a young age.
So true.
So no adverse experience in childhood is an adverse experience if the parents choose to keep their child very blanketed and secure in that space.
Could not agree with you more. The mental health, the emotional health of a parent, therefore, is what I have to say, becomes, I guess, the most important.
The most important thing when we talk
how
about
we translate to the children then. Yeah.
Sorry. When we talk about a child being well regulated, it starts with the parent.
Yeah.
If the parent is regulated, they can offer something in neuroscience which we call co-regulation. That sometimes, when we meet someone, we feel very at edge. Like, we're like, oh my God, I don't know what to say. I think he's not in the best mood. And we just don't, we kind of safeguard ourselves from just how that person is projecting themselves in that moment. Maybe they're really angry, maybe they're really anxious, and we start feeling those emotions too. We start feeling those as adults. So imagine that child who has no understanding of what this emotion means, of what this situation means. Now, you and I understand that a financial crisis is a bad thing. That child doesn't know. They don't know why their home has become from a big one to a small one. They just think that, oh wow, I get to sleep next to my parents all the time.
Right.
So it's on the parent how much they want to co-regulate that child. So it actually begins with that self-work, with that feeling that, okay, if I am in this situation, I have to first figure it out in my own head before I go and tell my child about it. And it could be something as basic as having a bad day at work. It doesn't have to be big things. You could have a bad day at work, but before you enter your house, take a breath at the door. Wait for a couple of seconds. Take that extra 5 minutes in your car. Rather than giving those 5 minutes of a dysregulated adult behavior to your child, it's okay if you take those 5 minutes for yourself. But then when you enter the house, you're more regulated yourselves.
That's fantastic. I have to tell you this. There is this, it was about during the Holocaust. There was this Jewish father who has his child with him. And of course, he's taken to the concentration camp with the child. The mother was German. You know, she was separated. So it was literally the Jewish father and the child. Exactly what you just said, that how it didn't matter what the circumstance was. The way he made a play out of, okay, now we have to hide behind the bunks so that these bad guys don't get us. The child thought it was a game. He was playing it was a game of life. But for that child, it taught me what a parent actually is meant to do. While they are going through trying to safeguard themselves, you know, trying to find ways to not be in that gas chamber, ensuring that the child could stay with him and not be taken away, that whole play of making it almost like a skit, almost like a game, that the child came out, you know, when the American tanks came and they won the war. The father, poor thing, passed away, but they won the war, and the mother came because then the borders were opened. All the child said, "Oh my God, so we won the game!" It was one of the most beautiful ways to really explain what I think we are just talking right now.
Completely.
About. Yes, there are hardships, but don't let it go down to the kids. Keep it light for them. Keep it as cushioned as possible for them.
And when we say cushioned, I don't mean don't tell them what the reality is.
Yes.
But tell it to them in a way that it makes sense for their brain to understand it, and they don't feel that they have to be in survival mode. Because when a child is in survival mode, they are never going to be able to learn. And that's the most important thing to remember, that a child in fight or flight mode is not going to prioritize learning, because their brain is telling their body that you just need to either run or you need to just take off. You can't be in this situation. You either have to fight it or you take off from it. And how is that child going to learn in that space? So at any point in that child's life, if there's just one thing for a parent to remember, is don't let them get into fight or flight mode. Keep that amygdala as quiet as possible, because that's when the rest of the brain is going to give them a chance to learn.
And now we come back to that one, where how much of that amygdala they have to calm down, because then they are making them helicopter parents. I think so. This is that whole
the dichotomy,
dance.
I often say that parenting is the hardest thing that you can do, and nobody gives you an exam. Nobody's going to take an exam at the point of discharge from the hospital. Like, are you even ready to become parents? Like, what are you going to do with this child back home? Are you qualified for it? And you have to give so many exams to become a doctor. But I think if I were to become a parent, it's going to be a harder experience than actually becoming a doctor, because it's like you're not trained for it. So it is difficult, and for modern parents it's even harder than ever before, because if you're in a space where both the partners are working, where you have all of this exposure,
which is my life as of today.
Exactly. And you know, there are these the social fabric is changing as we speak. It's very hard for a modern parent to understand, how am I even supposed to do this? And that's exactly why I practice what I practice. Because a modern parent has challenges which, we haven't even known all of them and B, it's something which is really going to amount and just multiply exponentially when that child becomes an adult.
Yeah.
Do we want to have a child who suffers from chronic diseases later on in life, or do we want to address it when we
You know,
can?
there's so much information, yet there is no information, lack of
Yeah.
information, and then there's asymmetric information. And you know, as modern parents, you're just caught in this whole cobweb of information asymmetry
Correct.
and dichotomies.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I want to pick one common problem that I see, and she sees it, I'm sure, through her practice as well, which is bullying. I want you to address that topic for us and for the audience, that how do you prepare the child in your conversations or professional practice with the child in the family on how to stand up for yourself when you're being bullied, and how not to be a bully, to be able to, you know, permeate that ethos of kindness in society, which is what our podcast also stands for. You know, because I understand that, you know, that today is one of the biggest dents that bullying can cause, one of the biggest dents on a pediatric child's mind, and can ruin their future forever,
Absolutely.
their self-confidence, etc.
Let's take a bully first. That bully's reaction to someone who he feels is weaker or she feels is weaker than him is merely a dysregulated nervous system acting out. They might have certain experiences back home, certain things that they are dealing with on a personal front. They don't know how to manage those emotions. And when they come to school, they find this child who's perhaps weaker, and they feel the need to show superiority themselves by putting that child down. And that superiority comes in the form of dysregulation, anger, hitting, abusing, making them feel lesser, all of those negative emotions. But the root of it is not understanding what you are feeling and then not knowing what should you do about it. If I had a child who was the bully, then it would come down to this first, that what is going on in their life? Do they have a home environment which is not conducive to their growth? What is their nutrition like? Are they having, too much sugar, for example, which is giving them too much energy and they don't know what to do with it and it's coming out in this manner? Are they not sleeping enough, which is making them irritable and cranky the next day when they go back home or when they go back to school the next day? What is the environment of that child? Do they have a parent who's talking to them in a certain way which is making them feel lesser, so they need to go to someone else and talk like that? Is someone else at home doing this? What is really going on? Because bullying is what you see. There are layers and layers behind it. And now similarly for the child on the other end, on the receiving end, who's getting bullied themselves. Firstly, it starts with giving that child that confidence to come and tell someone about it. That's the biggest thing. Sometimes children feel that there's something wrong with me, which is why I'm being bullied. Yeah. But if you give that child those tools, that hitting is not okay, abusing someone is not okay, telling someone that you don't like them just because they're different than you is not okay. When they're 2, tell them that at the age of 8 that, oh, this behavior is not good, so I need to go and tell my parents about it, or I need to go and tell the teacher about it. It gives them the confidence to at least speak up for themselves. Then a resolution can be met. Then we can help that child out. Oftentimes I see kids who just don't have the ability to even say that this is happening to them. They go years and years and years, and one fine day you realize that, oh my God, this is what's happening. How are you surviving in this environment?
Exactly. They've got to also learn to stand up for...
And it begins when they're young. It begins when they're taught to accept differences in kids. It begins when they're taught what's right, what's wrong. It begins when they hear their own parents stand up for themselves. That, no, I didn't like what you did. Can we please not do this? Can you not speak to me like this, please? I didn't like it. Today my boss spoke to me like this at work and I didn't really like it. When you have that conversation with your child about even telling them what's good versus what's bad, how do they know?
Yeah. So what are the top 3 epidemics / pandemics in the whole kids' lifestyle world that you would like our audience to know?
I think the biggest one is this whole epidemic of chronic non-communicable diseases that we're seeing. I mean, everybody we know, at least someone we know, has one of these conditions, which is obesity, PCOS, mental health conditions, hypertension, diabetes. I mean, the list goes on and on of these chronic non-communicable conditions. These are conditions we diagnose at the age of 40, but they start at the age of 4, when the habits that you've created are only going to compound and give rise to those chronic non-communicable diseases. So that's the biggest one. The second one that we're seeing is a myopic epidemic, which is basically not being, like, having to wear glasses because of devices, because of how the architecture of our eyeballs is changing to adapt to a condition where we only see close by, we can't see further out because of device usage. And then the third one is this, which is a lot of misinformation. The epidemic or pandemic of misinformation. And it's the biggest one because it just doesn't give you anything correctly, and then you're, like you said, you're trying to piece together advice in a way that doesn't even make sense to you. And this is something that I realized when I started growing my own plants. So I started putting pictures up on AI, thinking that, oh, it can help me at least diagnose what's going on with my plants. Why aren't they flowering? Why aren't they giving me the tomatoes that I really want? And that AI agent was giving me advice, but it wasn't related to anything that I could have done. It was telling me to put these fertilizers, do this and do that, but the space I was living in was so hot that none of this would have worked. So just it pieces together random things that you give it, no matter how good of a prompt you give it, and it gives you something that doesn't make any sense if you were actually supposed to think about it strategically. So this is the same thing that's happening with parents, that they seek out advice on the AI agents, on the internet, piece it together and think that it's going to make sense for their kids, but it can't.
No. Especially in my field also, in mental health, the nuances.
Same, I think for all three of us, I think we need that human element to vet what is correct and what's not, and adapt it contextually to the patient / client that you're meeting.
Because AI can only capture the first layer. There's so many layers to a human, system, that you can't only, AI therefore won't replace, but yes, you're right, that parents, I always tell my patients too, I said, you know how to shop the furniture, but you won't know where to place it till you come to a professional.
That's beautiful.
That everything of your choice, give it to me. Now I'll tell you how to place it and where to place it, when to say what to say, when, so to speak.
And as professionals ourselves, it's hard to undo that, because then it's
so
like you've lost
you might
trust.
as well tell them, place it here, don't place it everywhere.
Exactly, because there's an aspect of them not trusting you. So first you have to undo what they've done. Then you have to get them to trust you, and then you have to deliver the care that you want to deliver. So that entire process just puts you back so many months almost, that by the time you reach the actual point that you wanted to make, there are 3 other things which have come up. So just as for all parents, please don't rely on AI agents to make decisions regarding your child. It's not going to serve you.
So true.
So Doc, tell the audience, how do you work? Like, how, if somebody really has to sign up with you, wants to consult you, what is the way forward? Do you do e-consults? Do you do physical meetings? If physical meetings, where do you meet them? Do they work on an annual package? Do they work on per meeting? Do they do a trench of 10 meetings? Is it like a year-on-year program? So I think it's going to be useful information for our audience to understand how to engage with you, because there's so much value in whatever you're doing, and so many parents and kids out there can benefit from your advice.
I begin at the preconception stage up until the pre-teenage group. So it's a huge spectrum of ages that we're talking about. I offer a one-time guidance consultation, which is addressing one problem at one point in time. So say, for example, you're really struggling with your child's gut health. So that's a problem that we'll address in that one consultation. However, I also have an entire care consultation approach, which is for 3, 6, 9 or 12 months, which gives a parent that continuity of care, which allows me to actually create behavior change for the parent and the child dyad together. Because lifestyle medicine, at the end of the day, is behavior change. We need to create certain habits that will serve the child well, and it's very hard, next to impossible, to do that in just one consultation. So if there is something which the parents are struggling with, they want to kind of have that continuity of care, I do have that approach of the 3, 6, 9, 12 model. For most of my patients, I do telemedicine, so online digital consultations, because like I said, my practice is built for the modern parent, a parent who might be traveling, who's working, who's already finding it hard to remove time. So there is an option to do digital consultations. But if someone really wants me to meet them in person, then I'm available at Breach Candy Hospital in Mumbai and in Indore. So both of these places, I can meet them in person, but there's also a digital consultation
And when are you
approach.
coming to Delhi now? Which hospital can they come here to? Because I'm sure, yes, online consultations would really take out all a lot of stuff, but it's still, there are going to be parents who would want to meet you one-on-one. So I think you will have to be traveling way more than you were ever willing to.
If someone wants to offer their space to me as a consultation, please reach out.
Already, me in Delhi. We'll do it here. No, but this is amazing. This is amazing. Shall we,
So now we move to a very interesting segment. So we are going to get into this round, which is behind the closed doors. So we are going to be asking you some fun questions and a few reflective questions as well. So let's see what comes out of it. Cool. So Dr. Michelle, if you had to diagnose modern parenting in one sentence, what would the diagnosis be?
Very attentive, very curious, very interested parents who just need the right direction to follow for their end goal.
Sure.
what is one parenting trend you secretly disagree with?
I secretly disagree
Yeah.
with the idea of overscheduling. From go to school from 9 to 1, come back home, take a nap, at 3 o'clock go for ballet, at 5 o'clock go for a play
I
date.
see it with parents. Excel sheets, they've even slotted like a loo break. And I'm like, dude, it doesn't work like this.
Overscheduling. I think a kid needs to have a little bit of free time, a little bit of boredom, a little bit of just not doing anything for them to actually assimilate all that they have learned.
So true.
The next question, Doc. If toddlers could give TED Talks, what do you think they'd lecture us about?
That they have big feelings too. They just don't know how to say it, and it comes out as tantrums.
That's so true.
But they have very big feelings which they want to share with all of us. They just don't know why you don't see that the blue cup is more important than the pink cup for them. It's very important.
So when my daughter gets to the stage where she's capable / competent / able to deliver a TED Talk, I'm definitely going to take her back to this, what you just shared today, and encourage her to, give a TED Talk on this.
Yeah. One habit parents think is harmless, but you wish you could ban overnight.
The idea of not eating one meal together as a family. If a parent had to do just one thing starting today, is start eating dinner together as a family. Just one thing. No matter what the age of your child is. Even if they're a baby, take them on your lap. If they're not sleeping, of course, and have one meal with them. It teaches a child so much more than we think it does. It teaches them manners, etiquette, nutrition, language, understanding how social dynamics work. Just one thing to do is eat dinner together as a family.
I think a very, very
Such a
good.
very, very good point.
It's hit me hard. Okay, so what's your own small imperfect habit that does not quite match your profession?
That I am a big overscheduler myself. And I find it hard to manage my own brain sometimes. So I thankfully have my husband who can help me manage that, who is a fertility medicine specialist himself. So he understands where I'm coming from.
Wow.
And he can help me regulate my own brain, which is very, very oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, oh my god, I didn't do this. So yeah that's a big one.
That's amazing. What a Ram Milai Jodi.
Yeah, it's like yin and yang coming together.
So good, so good. If your younger self saw you today, what would surprise her the most and what would she be the most proud of?
Oh my god, every single thing. I don't think as my younger self would have ever thought I would have been here today. I would have been so confident in speaking. I would have studied so much. I would be outgoing. Nothing. My younger self wouldn't have imagined any of this happening to her.
That's amazing.
So, we asked you some cheeky questions. Now we're going to get to a little bit more reflective. We promise won't be boring questions, but we'll just compel you to think a little bit. So, one thing that modern medicine does really well.
Treating the condition. I think we're getting better and better at diagnosis. We're getting better and better at treatment. we're getting better and better at delivering care faster, which is beautiful. It is required, and in no way do I want to say that modern medicine is not needed. It 100% is needed. Pediatric lifestyle medicine is just a complement to that approach, that this child who lives here today should not grow up and be a patient later. And it starts with them in the younger days.
Do you think it misses somewhere?
It misses the patient as a person in a lot of ways. And there are more and more people who are bridging that gap. And I think as I continue to grow in this field, and and many people who I meet are now starting to recognize the person along with the patient, which is how you can deliver care, which is empathetic, which is personalized, which is true to who that patient is, true to the circumstances that they come from.
One shift that you think parents should really make to raise a happy kid?
Being happy themselves, being completely happy themselves, liberated from the outcome of what they want, and letting the child see that firsthand.
That's amazing. And a moment in your journey where you felt deeply aligned with your purpose?
I think it's when you see kids coming into their own. And the most important thing is when you see parents being confident in raising their kid. I don't want to be needed by a parent for the rest of their child's life. I don't want to, because I want them to have the confidence to be a part of their child's life without external support. And that's what parents should also seek out. That am I gaining confidence from this particular activity, or am I losing it? And if the answer is yes, then please continue doing it. But if you lose your confidence, then it's not serving you in the long run.
One belief about health that you've completely changed your mind about?
That health is something we treat. I think health is something you create. And you start from preconception, you start from childhood. It's not something that you treat along the way.
And finally, what does unconditional love and kindness mean to you?
It's a parent. It's a parent loving their child for exactly who they are at every stage of their life, accepting their imperfections as a part of their personality, and serving as a guide for that child rather than a person who holds their hand and takes them along. They're not a part of that journey. They're just helping the child realize their own path no matter where they wish to turn in that journey.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I think there was a Gibran quote which said, they are not of you, they are just coming through you.
Yeah.
You know,
And they're not you. The most important thing is they're not you.
They're not you. What a beautiful, beautiful conversation we had today, Dr. Michelle. I think we learned so much. First of all, you're so good with your words. You're so clear. We understood everything. You put everything in perspective. I couldn't thank you enough. And I think there are a lot of parents, to-be parents, young parents, all sorts, all generations, who are going to be listening to this podcast and really taking out so much of information and so much of wisdom from you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank
It was
you
a
so
beautiful
much.
episode. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So today's episode, guys, we learned about nurture versus nature. We learned about intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation. We learned the fact that the child is here to walk their own path. They are a part of you, but they're not you. When I say you, I mean the parent. We've learned how there are so many epidemics / pandemics in the whole teenage and childhood that need to be treated, as Dr. Michelle said. And we also learned that modern medicine is advancing. Almost everything is treatable. So don't feel stuck with your situation today. If you really think you need help, reach out. There are experts like Dr. Michelle in the world today that are there to help you and come out of your problem. Life is beautiful and it needs to be lived. And you need to make an effort to come out of your shackles and live this beautiful life. With this, we end our episode of Kin and Kindness today. And we are going to be back next fortnight.